Hey there in podcast land. It's your host, your girl, Karen Beach, with this episode of the 21st Century Christian. And we have quite a guest. She's got a story. It's full of redemption, it's full of recovery, it's full of growth and all of the things that you and I both need as 21st century Christians as we go forward navigating in the world. So you're going to want to hear from Helen Glanville, and we're going to talk to her in a minute. I just got some business to take care of. And then a little trivia, little business, little trivia. Then we'll get into the interviews. This podcast episode is brought to you by Concepts and Clarity. Right now, we're selling 3 online courses: Those Sheep, Jesus and Money, and Beyond Proverbs 31. Why sheep? Because they're mentioned over 400 times in the Bible. And in biblical times, they were a big deal. Now that's what, a lamb chop and a wool sweater. But back then, it meant a lot. So we talk about what sheep were worth and why we're so often compared to sheep in the New Testament. And money. And a fourth of Jesus's parables, he talks about wealth and money. So we talk about wealth and money. We talk about why Jesus talked about it so much. I mean, he was a carpenter. He wasn't a financial planner, or even like Matthew, a tax guy. So why was he talking about money? We talk about that. We talk about the different values of money, because how much money we're talking about makes a difference in some of the parables that we're looking at. And beyond Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman is the ideal woman. Well, the rest of us aren't ideal. I ain't ideal. I don't know if you're ideal, but the beauty of the Bible is that none of us are perfect. None of us are going to be the Proverbs 31 woman. None of us are going to be Jesus. We're all going to be imperfect. And we talk about several imperfect women in the Old Testament and the New Testament. I have 3 courses. Each course is made up of 4 to 5 lessons. I don't want to overwhelm you, so I send you a lesson a week in your email. You'll get a lesson a week, and you'll get a handout that has all of the Bible verses in that lesson, as well as questions for journaling or group discussion if you're using it for your Bible study. Find out more about all of these courses if you want to learn more about what they're about, if you want to buy one, at conceptsandclarity.com. So go to conceptsandclarity.com. Now,
Did you know?
even though the 8th commandment is thou shalt not steal, stealing, it's a no-no, is one of the big 10. But when it comes to stealing, the Bible is the book that is stolen, that is shoplifted more than any other book. World over, it's the Bible. Now, here's what I found interesting. There's 3 reasons that people steal the Bible. One, there's a lot of people that think it should be free. It's the Bible. I mean, we need it. So why isn't it free? So the free people don't have a problem taking it because they're like, well, it shouldn't cost me anything anyway. Then there's some people who know that they should pay for it. But for whatever reason, they're in a place in their life where they can't afford it, but they need it. They need what the word says, so they take it. So they're out of desperation. And then the third group, Well, those are your seasoned thieves, and they want the high quality copies of the Bible that they can sell and get a decent amount of money for. So those are the real thieves. You have the people that think it should be free, the people that steal out of desperation, and those high class thieves that want to just try to make some money. So that was Did You Know? Did you know? You can talk about it at your next function. Did you know the Bible is the most shoplifted book ever? Most people probably didn't know that. Now, we talk about the book of the Bible, but the book that our guest is selling is called A Second Chance. And it's a story about love, it's about forgiveness, it's about faith, and it's about rebuilding a life. So, a lot of times you make bad decisions, you make bad choices, and you get to a point where you need to rebuild your life. And the author of that book is Helen Glanville. And right now, she's on the other side of the world. She's in Australia.
It's a piece of real estate. I'm in Adelaide.
Right now, I really want to say, the dingo ate my baby. And I just said it. It probably was a really bad accent. And I'm sorry, because I don't really do accents, but that's whenever I hear someone is from Australia, I think about a dingo eating a baby.
Oh no.
It's either
That's
that
sad.
or I want to say, how about those Hemsworth brothers? That's the other.
Oh, that
Yeah, we can talk about, but this is Christian, so
yeah.
let's leave the lusting for the Hemsworths to another podcast. Welcome to the 21st Century Christian.
Thank you so much.
I love your book, and your book is about your husband, your late husband, and he was a pretty big deal for all of
Yes.
for some of the wrong reasons. He was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Back in the 70s, when I was a younger girl, I had read all the headlines, and there were many of them in the early 74, 75. That's probably way before you were even born, and maybe a
No,
long
I
time
was
before.
I was born 75. I was probably in grade school.
Okay. So you could be my daughter.
Beating kids up
So,
at recess. So that's what I was.
okay. So I was 20 when I was reading these headlines. Well, actually 18, 19, reading these headlines about this international criminal who took a one-way ticket to Rio. He had abandoned his family, had left behind incredible debts. He was a lawyer that had a trust account. He was a womanizer, a well-known womanizer. Everything about him was not the kind of prospective husband that your parents would want you to have. In addition, he was completely penniless. Now, because I'd read all the headlines, I had decided I wanted nothing to do with this man. Absolutely nothing. But my father had a dream. And the dream was that if I had lost everything, all my friends, my wealth, my station in life, my wife had divorced me while I was overseas. My father said, if that was me, I would like that somebody would give me a second chance. So, despite the opposition from the police and friends and all of that, my father persisted, and in the day he raised $50,000 bail. Now that was a lot of money for my family, and in fact, it was almost the entire value of our family home. which at the time had been valued at 54,000. So it went ahead. Geoff had already tried for bail 10 times and failed. The police were convinced he would be a flight risk. So we
Now,
met.
at this time, was he back in Australia?
Yes, yes. He was in Sydney. So he had done that. You got to understand the Australian government were asking the Brazilian government to hold on to him, even though he had never committed a crime in Brazil. And so the Australians, what they wanted was an extradition treaty. Now, they didn't get it. There still is no extradition treaty, but Geoff was held in a hellhole. And the hellhole was with 14 other men lying down on a concrete floor like sardines in the space of two bathrooms, or a big bathroom, but concrete floor to sleep on. His coat was his rug, and then a handful of black beans and a handful of rice every day was what the prisoners were given. And so he was thrown in with all these international prisoners, and he was there languishing for 14 months. And then he came back to Australia in September 75, so that's 50 years ago, and I met him in the January 76. The man I wanted nothing to do with, right? And 3 weeks later, he proposed, and I said yes.
Wow, that was talk about a whirlwind. What
Okay.
what made you say yes after 3 weeks?
It's very hard to say what it was except the power of love. He was not the man of the headlines. He was gentle. He was tender. He was trustworthy. He was remorseful. He had lost everything. He had been brought down to as low as you can go. And because of that, he'd been a high flying lawyer in Sydney. Now he was penniless. He was filthy rich in his own right. But he came down to a very low point. He was humbled, and you could tell this man was contrite. He spoke gently, he spoke tenderly, and I think the power of love, and also I believe it was the Lord who brought us together. Now, logically, nothing added up. My parents were praying I'd meet someone else. I mean, this dude, you know, who wants him for a son-in-law? He was divorcee and 20 years older than me. So I get it. I get why my parents didn't think he ticked many boxes. I get it. But when he went to my father and said, "May I have your daughter's hand in marriage?" my father threw him back into prison, as you do.
Yeah, I
He
think
just
your
threw the
father and
bail.
my father would have gotten along very well.
Yeah. So his cousin came forward. They lowered the bail from 50 to 35,000, and his cousin came forward, and he then was out of prison for a good year, so he could talk to his defense lawyer, get before he then had to face his sentence. He knew he would face a sentence because you do the crime, you got to do the time. He knew that, right? I knew that, and he did. And but he was such hot property with the media in Australia that he said, "Look, let's go slow on the wedding. Let's not race because I don't want you to become a target of the media." So I didn't go to the court to support him. He wanted me out of the public eye. And then after he was sentenced 2 years later, we thought the time was, so we eloped while he was in prison.
Wow, that is amazing. Now, in the description of your book, you talk about love, but you also talk about forgiveness.
Big
Talk
time.
about forgiveness a little bit.
Well, we can't really live in the place of peace and freedom without forgiveness, and there's several forms. The first forgiveness we need to really come to grips with is forgiving ourselves for when we did wrong to someone else and we knew or we know we hurt them, right? And that is really important. Forgiving someone else doesn't set them free. It sets us free. Because whatever's taken place in our past, we can't change. But when we set people free, it isn't really them that's set free, it's us. And not that we have to trust them again, but we do need to not harbor resentment, grudges, unforgiveness. I mean, I hear Christians talk about it too, I'll never forgive you. Do you know that flies in the face of what Jesus set out to do? Because he said 70 times 7. And if we were to do a spiritual audit now, imagine tomorrow we're going to die. The Lord's told us, I'm taking you home tomorrow. If we did an audit, we'd have to reflect, have I forgiven my mother or my father? Have I forgiven my siblings? Have I forgiven my neighbors, or so and so who did that to me, right? We have to come to a place where we say, Lord, help me. I know I need to forgive them because then I'm not carrying the weight
And I
of
think
the resentment.
people get forgiveness wrong because forgiveness does not mean you're letting that person off the hook. I can forgive you, but still want you prosecuted for what you did. But what I'm not going to do is let us hold on to that anger, hold on to that grief. I'm going to let that go. But it means two things. It means number one, that doesn't mean that you don't have to pay for what you did. And number two, it means that I don't have to let you into the same place that you had in my life.
That's,
You
that's right.
know, there are people I've had to forgive. My so-called best friend at the time did some things that were really out of line. I have forgiven her, but she's no longer my best friend. She
Correct.
lost that role, but
That's right.
that's a consequence of what she did. Now, I can talk about her without anger. I can talk about her and what she did, but I don't feel that resentment, that anger towards her. But I'm not going to let her, who is pretty much the same person she once was, I'm not going to let her back into my life the same way she was before.
That's right. That's very right. But forgiveness is really the message of the cross. So
Right.
while Jesus on the cross, he turned to the thief who said, Lord, forgive me. And he said, yes, because today, this day, you will be with me in paradise. Jesus had the power to forgive right there on death's doorstep. And I think that is where we need to be. We need to reflect on the things that we may have harbored. And I think that if we're not forgiving of people who've harmed us or even harmed others, then we're not doing what Jesus died for. I mean, how can you jolly well forgive anybody 70 times 7? I mean, that's why it's so ridiculous. It's a ridiculous amount. And it's said that way because he wanted us to go above and beyond and do it. And then we're set free. We then benefit from the freedom. So in my case, I really didn't have anything to forgive Geoff for. He had offended many other people. He didn't hurt me. There was nothing for me to forgive of him. But for us, I sensed we were put together for a mission. And when he got out of prison 5 years later, he committed himself giving other people a second chance. because he knew he'd been given one, in the sense that even though he had nothing of this world's possessions, he lost all his wealth, everything, he knew though that he could offer empathy, he could offer understanding because of what he'd been through. And there were so many guys coming through the system because, as you know, guys don't grow up till they're 40. And so, and some women say, oh, much older than that, but they grow up around about 40. And up till then, they have often made some serious blunders, some serious stupid decisions because they think they're invincible and they have this male attitude that I'll be fine. But when they finally wake up to what they have done or not done with their lives, that's when they can reflect, and especially if they're seriously trying to change. So if somebody comes and you can tell they're a law-abiding citizen, they're drug-free, they're paying taxes, they're doing all the things that we expect someone, a citizen, to be doing, then that's when we must give them a second chance. We have no right to hold their past against them,
Right.
right? Because Jesus doesn't hold our past against us, you
No,
know?
he doesn't. He does
So,
not hold our past against us, and we need to be able to let that go. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
know it's harder in some situations than others, but it's still
yeah,
something we need to focus on and we need to do. And if for no other reason than the fact that you could be blocking your own blessings.
yes, because I'm harboring unforgiveness. And, it is so important. We've started every one of the chapters in the book with a quote about forgiveness. In the world, like it's a no-brainer. Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, they all have a quote about the significance of forgiveness, to let go. Now, Jesus would forgive, let go, and move on, right? That doesn't, we have to be wise about the person we're giving the second chance to. We have to have discernment and check out the fruit that they really do want to change, and they just need to help up. They need some assistance and people to believe in them that they're going to be turning around and changing. So in my case, I came along at a time when Geoff needed me to believe in him, and I met him, and he was not the same man as the headlines described. He was not this ruthless person that did whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. Do you see what I'm saying? I, in a sense, gave him a second chance. And then job in South Australia, which is where I am, and that was 40 years ago. And we came over here, and life has been a whole second chance. It's his second marriage, and we have two beautiful sons, and it was a wonderful life together. We had to just discount any comments or any views of other people because we'd made our decision.
Right. And what was your life like? Was he able to make his money back, or did he have to just repay for what he took from others?
Okay, so he didn't have to repay because with lawyers, the lawyer's fidelity fund. Now, not all the clients got money back, but once you've been made bankrupt, once you've lost all your wealth, you have nothing more to give. And once you've done your time, there's nothing else that's required, you see. So my father was a victim. My father was a client and he got his money back. Once you've done your time, you can come out, even though you're bankrupt, and you can start again. So he got a job and he started again.
Okay, he started again. Now, There was something I read about you that I found really intriguing and that I want to know more about. You said you help people overcome traumatic events to grow stronger and live a better life in just
Yes.
90 days. That's like 3 months. 90 days. I need to live a better life in 90 days. So, what do I have to do that?
Okay, so when you went to school, did anyone teach you, should a traumatic event happen in your life, did anyone impart to you how to overcome,
No,
how to navigate through trauma? No, nobody gets taught this stuff because we're all going to suffer at some point some form of trauma, emotional, spiritual, mental. We will experience trauma at some point in our life.
I
We need to know.
the only thing that I was ever taught about that is a friend of mine taught me, and I've never forgotten it because I knew it was true before in my life. She said the only way through it is to go through it. And that is what I did. It's like I didn't, my mom died when I was 15. And after a long illness, she lost her sight, her kidneys failed, and all of that. But how I got through it, people say, well, why didn't you go on drugs? Why didn't you drink? And I said, because I determined that the best thing I can do for my mother is be the woman she raised me to be.
Correct.
And that
Absolutely.
woman was not a drug addict. That woman wasn't a drunk. And so I just focused on going to school, getting my grades, doing the things that I know would make her proud. But I right now I need 90 days.
So, what we need to understand is that I have a blueprint, and the blueprint is firstly before the trauma, whether it was a car accident or whether you lost everything in a fire, right? You have to not just shut down everything. You have to maintain the things that gave you fun and enjoyment before that event. So if you were swimming every morning and you enjoyed that, or if you played bridge, or if you played tennis, or you did something before that traumatic event, do not stop it because you had fun and enjoyment from it. Continue those things because you have to maintain those things. The next thing is acceptance. And for some people, accepting that something happened is very, very difficult. They want to go back, they want to reflect, they want to do a post-mortem. What if, what if, what if? No, it, it has that this is what's happened. Now, like after a fire, within 6 to 8 weeks, there will always be new, fresh, green growth. It will come. Naturally, it will come. And so my view is that fresh, new, green growth will come after a crisis. The word crisis, there's two parts to a traumatic event. Yes, it's a crisis, dangerous, but the other part is it's an opportunity. Now, the opportunity is for us to grow and for us to do new things, find new things, explore new things, which we can't imagine because our brain is so foggy. We're so much in shock and trauma. We can't think straight. Especially women, we're emotional beings. We can't think objectively. But there's the maintenance, the acceptance, and then we have to determine what are our real priorities in life. And after we lost everything on our farm, it was completely destroyed. We'd been working very hard for 32 years. We sat down and we just worked out what were the three most important things to us. and it was faith, family, and friends. And they were invaluable. Sure, we don't come into this world wearing or carrying anything, and we never leave this world with anything. It's all left behind. And so, even though my husband had been exceptionally rich in his previous life, and we had worked hard to build our home, we knew we couldn't take it with us. We didn't put our faith or our trust in materialism. And unfortunately, the way the world is set up, the world is saying, put your trust in gold, put your trust in things, and have that fancy house and the fancy cars. They do not bring happiness. It's good to have a roof over your head, and you understand that. It's good to have a vehicle. It doesn't have to be fancy schmancy, as long as it gets you there and is reliable, right? But you can only wear one pair of socks at a time. So it doesn't matter if you've got 100 pair of shoes, you still can only wear one pair at a time. So knowing your priorities of family, faith, and friends, it's got nothing to do with materialism. They were our priorities. And then I have a double P on MAP, M-A-P. The last P is plan. Plan, 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 because you're going into your future. You can't do anything about the past. You can't do anything about that trauma. But what you can do, even if it's as simple as meeting a friend and having coffee, that little event, that little connection gives you hope. I've got something to look forward to because your body's still in a swirl. When we lost everything, I felt like I was drowning in this sea of hopelessness. I had no idea where were we going, what was happening. But when we planned to meet people or when we planned to do something, it's a strange phenomenon, but it actually gave hope. It gave hope because we put things into the diary of our future.
Okay. So what are the MAP before plan? What are the MAP? You said there's
Maintain the things that gave you fun before
okay.
the event. Don't drop them. Accept it happened. Make sure you've accepted that it's happened. Then your priorities. And for us, it was faith, family, and friends. And then the final P is to plan. And I plan today. I'm a widow. I've been a widow for 3.5 years. If I didn't plan what I was doing next week, next month, and next year, because I have purpose, I have a plan. I'm not just wallowing and doing nothing. I've got things to look forward to and things to do. And planning, it doesn't have to be expensive, you know. Like tonight, I'm going to see my granddaughter at my son's place. It's very important to me. It's family, and I've planned it. So, and in
That
a
is
way, you and I planned this. Hey, you and I planned this, even though we had a few hiccups, technology and timing, it was a plan.
it was.
And we looked forward to it. It was in my diary for today. I was committed. I was coming. I wanted to see you and hear you and know you, and you likewise, you know. And so every time we make a plan, we are writing into our future.
We are. All right. So I'm going to end it there because that's a really powerful place to end it. I'm just going to do another sponsorship message and then I want to come back and I want to end with a virtuous verse because I have a verse that I want to share with you. This podcast episode is brought to you by.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Concepts and Clarity. We've got 3 courses we're selling over on conceptsandclarity.com. Jesus and Money, all about those sheep and beyond, Proverbs 31. Each course is made up of 4 to 5 lessons. You get a lesson a week in your email so you don't get overwhelmed. There's tons of information on it over at conceptsandclarity.com. Okay, so as we wrap things up, I want to leave us with a virtuous verse. And today's verse is from Psalms 34:19. Many, and we've talked about the afflictions today. So many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of all of them. And we talked about the afflictions that Richard Geoff Glanville had, and a lot of our afflictions, some of them we bring on ourselves, some of them happen to us, but it doesn't make a difference in this verse. It says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of all of them. And so when you listen to Helen talk about her story, her father was the one that championed Geoff getting a second chance. He didn't know that was going to end up with his daughter marrying the guy, but that ended up happening too. But the Lord delivered him for that affliction, and he ended up with two beautiful sons, great marriage, and he was delivered from that affliction. And so I'm right now, I've been afflicted, y'all. I've been afflicted. I've been afflicted. I feel like it's like I've been afflicted. But I know, I trust that I'm going to be delivered because I have that faith that I'm going to be delivered because I am one of the righteous. So I've been afflicted, but the Lord will deliver me out of that situation. And so that's a verse I think that's powerful if you're currently going through something.
Yeah.
Be it financial, be it health wise, dealing with grief, whatever it is, whatever your affliction, plan on the Lord delivering you out of it. I don't know how he's going to deliver me out of this situation, but I know that he will. That's where the faith comes in. I'm trusting him to deliver me out of this situation. We need to trust the Lord to do what he's going to do. Because guess what? He knows more than we do, y'all. He knows everything. We just know what we know, which isn't a lot when you think about it. But thank you so much, Helen, for coming by the 21st Century Christian. If you're so inclined, you can donate at $ Karen Beach 921 for my Cash App. It is Karen with a Y. Why? Because that's what George and Betty wanted. So it's KARYN, beach like by the ocean, 921. You can do that.
And if people would like to read my book, they can go to helenglanville.com.
HelenGlanville.com, and it's called A Second Chance.
Yes.
It's called A Second Chance. And if you read the description to this show, you will find a link to the book and to Helen's website. So thank you, Helen. Come back next week, people, because we'll have another guest, and there'll be another wonderful show for you to listen to watch, whatever you do, however you get your podcasts. We're here for you. Yeah, we are. And I will have Helen saying have a great time. I'm saying you have a great time, have a great week. Remember, whatever you're going through, Psalms 34:19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord will deliver him out of all of them. So until next time, people, thank you. Bye-bye.